I can really feel now that we are moving, rapidly it seems, away from the shortest night of the year. Are you feeling it too? Last evening, I noticed that the official sunset time was just after 5:30 p.m. A month ago, it was before 5 o'clock. A month from now, sunset will be after 7 p.m. Daylight savings time gives us a little bit of an edge, but still. The days are growing longer, and I am grateful that the amount of daylight time is extending. That means that on the other end of the day, in the mornings, it is brighter also. Sunrise is just before 7:30 and almost a half an hour earlier now than it was a month ago. So we have reached the point in the season where, driving east on 283 and 30 around 7:45, 7:50 a.m., the sun has just come over the horizon and now hovers right above the highway at exactly the time that we drive our children to school in the morning. It's a massive ball of light. We have all been told we should not look directly into the sun, and for good reason. It is blinding. I mean, literally blinding. And yet, in this scenario, as I drive down 283 East, I have no choice because it is the way I need to go. I have to look straight into it to get where I am going. The visor is urgently flung down. I drive while squinting furiously to try to maintain focus on the vehicle in front of me or the guideline on the side of the road. And of course, for reasons I can't quite explain, I have to turn down the radio so I can see better. It is a dangerous, risky situation, really. And pretty scary to be flying down the road, down the highway, without being able to actually see what's going on in front of me. The whole time, I'm hoping the way remains clear in front of me and the person in front of me, because if something unexpected occurs, I'm not going to see it. As much as I want to look away, if I'm going to get my kids to school, and I am, I cannot. While that light is glaring in my eyes, it demands my attention. It's the best parallel I can think of to what Peter, James, and John might have seen as Jesus' clothes suddenly become dazzling bright, such as no one on earth could brighten them. Luke describes it as a flash of lightning, and Matthew as bright as the light of the sun. Peter, James, and John, without their polarized sunglasses or sun visor, are stunned, speechless. But more than that, they were terrified, afraid. Sometimes I think that language is used to suggest awestruck, wowed, amazed. But in this case, I'm going to lean into terror and fear. Jesus took with him Peter and James and John, not just on a walk around town, but up a mountain, a high mountain, apart, by themselves. The text in Mark really focuses on this separation from other people and a movement away from the places where Jesus had been with all disciples, away from the teaching and the healing that Jesus had been doing just a few days before. They are separated by geography, up a high mountain, no longer in the villages. They are separated by seclusion, a specific, selected small group set apart by themselves, alone with Jesus. And it is in this specific place and at this specific time that Peter and James and John are able to see something that is shared with no one else. Jesus' transformation from the human person that they knew or thought they knew into something else, something more. The appearance of Moses and Elijah with Jesus chatting it up. These selected disciples see it visually, and their brains, I imagine, are working overtime to try to figure it out. It was sudden, it was scary, and it was dazzling. They are blinded temporarily to everything else in the world, transfixed on this scene. It demands their attention. I also notice the timing of this event in Mark's larger story. Two things have been happening. One, people are starting to ask who this guy is. In the previous chapter of Mark, the stage is being set for some sense of unsettledness, confusion, lack of understanding. Who do people say I am? Jesus asks his disciples. The response is some say he is Elijah, some say he is John the Baptist, some say he's an ancient prophet. So who do you say I am? Jesus asks his disciples. And Peter identifies Jesus as the Messiah. Without confirmation or denial or discussion, Jesus simply responds to keep quiet about it, not tell anyone. So one aspect of this transfiguration story is visual confirmation that Jesus is indeed not Elijah or the ancient prophet Moses, since they appear alongside him in this mountaintop experience. Jesus is something else altogether. The other thing that's been happening to set the stage for this event is that Jesus has been healing. Specifically, just days before, Jesus and his disciples arrived in Bethsaida, and Jesus gives sight to a man who was blind. Here also, the man is told to keep it quiet, told not to go back to his village, so that no one finds out about this healing. Soon afterward, Jesus' clothes emanate this dazzling, bright, blinding light. Blinding. Days after Jesus heals the blind man in Bethsaida, he invites these three specific disciples, the disciples who are particularly close to him, to be witnesses to this blinding event. For some, a glimpse of Jesus' identity is revealed by sight. For others, a glimpse of Jesus' identity is revealed by blinding. What are the things that blind us, distract us, appear to demand our attention? So many tasks. To-do lists a mile long, writing one email response only to have 5 more drop in the inbox in the meantime. Texts and calls and meetings and details and more details, never-ending details. Pain of a broken relationship. What if? What about? Should I have? Questions that cannot be answered but circle around in our mind on repeat. Overwhelming, long-lasting grief. Memories of good moments that cannot be replicated. Memories of suffering that should not be replicated. Knowledge of a loss, of a hole that cannot be filled. Physical pain, illness, disease of body, of mind, of spirit. Guilt, worry, flashbacks to bad or even horrible choices, choices of our own, choices of a loved one. Fear that bad or horrible choices might be made again. And there are all kinds of sunglasses we use to try to make the blinding manageable. Food, substances, work, social media, busyness, which really just end up further complicating the blinding. And while we are blinded by any or all of these things, Jesus might just be inviting us to the mountaintop. Jesus offers an opportunity that even if just for a moment, to look away from all of that, whatever that is, and pay attention to something else. And he's revealing just a glimpse of it here to Peter and James and John. And like us, perhaps, they have a difficult time understanding what they are seeing. Dazzling brightness, overwhelming glory, a glimpse into the divinity of Jesus that is truly beyond comprehension for them and for us. Our rational, intelligent, academic brains try to reason it, explain it, pick it apart, make it make sense. I've been doing that for the last couple of weeks. But this mystery isn't meant to be analyzed. I'm not even sure it's meant to be understood. I don't think, even though Jesus repeatedly asks his disciples, "Do you not yet understand?" No, they don't. No, we might not either. That's why year after year we do this. We read these stories. We think about what they mean for our own existence and our behavior and our choices as we live in this world. I do it. You do it. We do it together in order to attempt to ground this dazzling, blinding, set-apart, sacred mountaintop mystery in our own human understanding. So no, I don't think this mystery is meant to be analyzed, organized, categorized, systematized, maybe not theologized. I think it's meant to be experienced. It is in these moments when we are so caught by the things we think we can't look away from that Jesus invites us to come to the mountaintop. And the dazzling, blinding radiance of Jesus stops us in our tracks, demands our attention, even if just for a moment. It may not be the voice of Jesus or a physical appearance of Jesus, like we read in this scripture. At least in my own experience, it hasn't been that. But it might be something else. A special conversation with a friend that leads to an aha moment of some kind. A hug from and to exactly the right person at exactly the right time. A song that inexplicably and unexpectedly moves you to tears. A rush of calm, of assurance, of all is right in the world through the eyes of a child, through the words of a poem, through the sight of the sunset, through the scraggly bare branches of a tree, through the spicy scent of a homemade meal, through the blood moving through your body after a brisk walk, through the warm breeze or warm blanket that wraps around your arm. It's more than just comfort, although it is that too, but it's a glimpse of something beyond. Knowing, being, safety, connection, belonging, part of something greater than self, intense perception of something more, something deep, something mysterious, something magnificent, something beyond words, something rooted in your sacred soul for a moment. And like Peter, who suggests he could set up 3 tents, one for Jesus, one for Moses, one for Elijah, we want to build a little house for that moment. We want to stay there. We want to just be in it, present, blinded by clarity. But I don't think that's what it's for. Those dazzling moments that bring us right up to the heartbeat of God and take our breath away cannot be permanent. For we cannot stay in the space of the sacred permanently while we are still a part of this world. We must breathe. We must live. We must go back down from the mountaintop. And at first, we keep it for ourselves. We absorb it. We contemplate it. And eventually, we share it when it's the right time, maybe with words, but often not. And we seek it again. As we enter this Lent season in the coming days, I invite you to seek out moments with God, with your mind, and with your body, and with your heart, and with your soul. This Wednesday and each Wednesday at 6:30 in the evening, here in this space and on live stream, we will host short Taizé services. And for the next 6 Sundays of this Lent season, we will be exploring how to live into this invitation with all that we are. We often say we don't check our brains at the door when we enter this church. I would like to suggest we don't check our bodies either. How might we embrace the embodiment, the physicality of the hike up the mountain to be blinded by Jesus' dazzling presence? In a few minutes, we will be sharing in communion together. As always, all who accept the mystery and presence of Jesus Christ are welcomed, invited to participate. And I invite you to be eyes open, ready to be blinded for a moment by the dazzling presence of Jesus in this sacred act, this living sign too. May it be so.